Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Rodriguez de Colleen, founder of the human-centric leadership development firm Ruby Red Coaching and Consulting. And I wanted to offer you a few tips to help you create a thriving new future during these very uncertain times. It goes without saying that the world we live in today is completely different to the one we all knew just a year ago, just a month ago. It's been marked by extreme polarities in the way we live, in the way we work, our politics, the economy, and the ways in which we treat one another. Now, these changes that we've undergone are unsettling and they've been traumatic, but they've also been inventive and liberating in many ways. The introduction of the COVID-19 vaccines gives us all hope that we can start to make plans for our future with a bit more confidence and security. But after all the adjustments that we've already had to make, research shows that the majority of people globally don't want to go back to the way things were. So then what does our future actually look like moving forward? Now that's the question that we've been wrangling with in my Time to Act masterclass, where I've been coaching a stellar group of executive leaders and business owners who are working hard to visualize and build thriving and sustainable new futures for themselves and their organizations and their communities. And some of the things that we've been exploring are the different ways in which leaders can evolve at the same pace or faster than their changing circumstances. Accepting Malcolm Gladwell's very famous words, what got you here won't get you there, then one way of doing this is by figuring out what you need to unlearn and then relearn in order to move forward with greater ease and success. So unlearning is actually a critical part of our continuing process of growth and development. And when we unlearn things, we make space for new information and points of view and experiences. We're also able to make better connections, to be more creative and innovative with our ideas, to become better problem solvers, and to respond to change and its accompanying challenges and opportunities with greater agility and adaptability. And there are many things that are useful to unlearn, but I'd focus on two key areas. One are beliefs and mindsets, and the other are habits and behaviors. So for instance, I know the CEO in a global pharmaceutical company who absolutely refused to allow his staff to work from home without pre-approved permission. Sounds like a lot of bosses. He believed that people would not be as productive working in their home environment as they would be in the office. And even after the pandemic forced the company to close its doors, he still held on to that belief for ages. But now, months later, he's seen a real change, and he has changed his belief and is now actively renegotiating leases for office space, as they're now going to have a more remote working policy as part of their permanent culture. So unlearning this one belief will have a significant impact across the whole company. And, it will improve all kinds of things, including operational savings, which possibly could be redirected to further R&D and ultimately to improving patient health outcomes, just from unlearning one very outdated belief. Now, another example is in the area of habits and behaviors. So as leaders, how many times do you make decisions and take actions because it's easy or because that's the way it's always been done? Like in hiring practices. A lot of leaders talk about their commitment to diversifying their company, the people in their organization, and yet they're still recruiting new graduates from a handful of really prestigious universities with great, high standards, but with very similar student demographics, including life and educational experiences. It's an old, traditional habit that clearly isn't useful for anyone and one that needs to be unlearned. So the world we're in now is different and completely uncharted. So this is the moment to really challenge all of those past assumptions and conventions and create a future as it could be instead of this unhelpful replica of how it once was. So here are 5 very simple tips to start your unlearning process. 1, make a conscious commitment to the process itself. Create the time and space to think and foster a culture of unlearning within your organization. Make it safe to ask questions, to challenge the status quo. 2, become more self-aware. Ask yourself, what are the beliefs and mindsets and habits and behaviors that are no longer serving you or your business or your employees or your customers or your industry or your society? Explore what you've already learned and how you've had to adjust over the last year, and think about that in relation to your organization or your team. And then reflect on what you needed to unlearn or release in order to evolve to successfully make those adjustments. 3, ask for the input from others. especially those with differing views. Actively seek out and invite input from a diverse range of people and information sources. Physically go to them and be in their space if possible. Listen intently and ask questions. 4, describe, preferably in writing, how you'd actually like the future to be. Be curious and uncensored with yourself. Ask, what would you do if you weren't afraid, if there was no one to stop you or tell you you couldn't do it that way? And then reflect on what's stopping that reality from happening now. And 5, embrace the suck, as Brene Brown might say. Sometimes as we start to unlearn old habits and ways of thinking, we can also judge ourselves and our organizations. This may be uncomfortable and it may require restitution. It might trigger feelings of shame or embarrassment. And it might also create this feeling of mourning for the comfort that we had in these old familiar ways of doing things. But these are just growing pains. My advice is to stick with it, to actively unlearn what it is that is no longer useful, and you will find your way toward a more rewarding, powerful, successful, and sustainable future. Pop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you are unlearning and trying to relearn to create a better, more thriving, and sustainable future for yourself and your organization and your society. I'd love to hear your thoughts.